I don't think there is such a thing called work-life balance per se. It's never 50-50. It's never 50-50. And I think it's fine to be not 50-50. So at some point in time, it's 70-30. Yeah, at some point in time, it flips to the other side. So many women struggle with this. And there's only one thing I will tell them is there is a season for everything. And I hold true to that. So in my season in life right now, work is more important. That's because my kids don't really need me anymore. So for me, it's 70% work and 30% home. Or maybe even not being a mom is more me now, right? So for me, work-life balance is work-me balance now, right? Rather than work-life balance, because the life is no longer the life of a mom, but the life of me as I approach, the third half of my life or retirement or whatever it is.
Hello and welcome to Make It Work, the bi-weekly podcast where we uncover inspiring stories of modern working mamas in Asia who have redefined their career paths whilst putting family first.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Make It Work podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Wong, and today I have a very special guest. So this is Elena Chow, mom based in Singapore of 4 grown children and the founder of ConnectOne, a talent solutions company that helps high-growth startups to build and develop their teams. So I first met Elena a few years ago through the Portfolio Careers Asia group when I myself was going through my own career transition, which I've spoken about in different episodes. And I was feeling super lost, trying to figure out what my next act should look like. And the portfolios career was a very interesting concept that I hadn't heard about. And when I first talked to Elena, she struck me as someone full of wisdom and that grounded perspective that, you really want to just get more of. And she's so embedded in the careers, hiring, startup world that I gained so much from her perspective and the different workshops that she organized. So when I later found out that she's raised 4 children, I knew I had to get her on the podcast to hear how she makes it all work. So today we finally get to do that. And the fun fact is that while Elena has done dozens of interviews about hiring, startup, and professional stuff, I think this will be the first one where she's integrating kind of like both her personal and professional story. So we are really in for a treat. So yeah, Elena, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for having me. And indeed, like the last part, seriously, when you asked me to be on this podcast, I said I've talked about everything that's business related and entrepreneur related and startup related. But really, this is definitely the first time I'm going to be talking about myself and me as a mom and work-life balance and all those things that, has been on my mind, but I've not really spoken it out. So, I hope it works.
Definitely a lot of interesting things to hear from you. But yeah, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your season of work and motherhood? What does it look like today?
Yeah.
Your children, your agents. Yeah.
You have 3 hours? I'm just kidding. Right. So like you said, I'm a mom of 4 kids. I cannot believe it, but they range from 18 to 28. So 10 years, 4 kids, 10 years apart. 2 are working, 1 in uni and 1 doing A-levels. So, I started typically, if you ask me, a very corporate career. After university, went to a Fortune 500 big MNC because that was the way it was, right, in that time. Spent 15 years there. Great company. It was Procter Gamble. Great benefits. Super good place to raise 4 kids, really. Like everything was paid for and stuff like that. And I was still growing a lot. It wasn't that I wasn't growing. But when I was pregnant, my 4th kid, I had already told my boss that, hey, I'm not coming back. And this is like a 9-month notice period, right? So that's how wonderful this company is. Yeah, because I realized that I think it's a season of my life where I had to spend more time with the kids. Make no mistake, it was quite a difficult decision. I thought about it for many years. Discussed with my husband and we go, okay, I think it's about time. So so I stopped work. But I've got many stories. It wasn't like a complete stoppage of work because then I told myself that in this season, where else can I contribute towards? Because aside from, and it had to come back to the kids, right? So I told myself that I'll be more involved in anything that created impact or that can solidify values, not only in my kids, but in young people. So I started volunteering more in their schools. And I chose to actually focus on the faith development. My kids were all in Catholic schools and we are Catholics ourselves. And I chose to focus on helping the school start up or enhance their faith development programs. So intentional about it. And through that, I actually met a gentleman who was actually part of NUS Enterprise. And they were growing their startup incubation program. And he said, hey, since you're free, you've got corporate experience, why don't you come on board and sort of like help us develop the program, not just from a hiring perspective, but also from a advisory perspective. So hence got into the whole startup. Very strange to me. Never heard of them before. Was selling shampoo, first time in tech, but realized that some help in the people space. And yeah, so I became an entrepreneur, second career. I never looked back. Best decision of my life. Couldn't have done it if I didn't stop work. So there are many, many stories about all these things. But yeah, so that's kind of where I am today. Yeah, so I started the company in 2011. That was like, oh my gosh, 20 years ago. But I only really started to put more time in it around 2014. So I would say the company essentially is about just about 10 years old.
Right, right. Wow. So you started it whilst your kids were still pretty young in like elementary,
Ye-
primary school, right?
Yeah, I would say that my daughter was when I settled her in kindergarten, that's when I started the business. So I knew that
Mm,
at least 3 hours of time, right? I had to do stuff.
right. Can you go back to maybe those earlier days of figuring out your path as a young mom and still wanting to go back to the corporate world at some point when things was really uncertain? Like what can you share a moment that you remember that was very significant in your trajectory?
Yeah. I think this whole pivot into entrepreneurship, into starting a recruitment company, I feel that it's probably one of the biggest moments for me because I mean, number one, my background is in sales and marketing. I don't have HR background, right? My
Yeah.
background is in selling shampoos and diaper. All right. I've never been in tech, right? Like tech,
Right.
super foreign to me other than going to the help desk to go figure out what's wrong with my computer, right? So it was very significant. But what led me to say yes and jump in and said, I will do it
Oh,
is because I saw that these kids in the NUS startup program needed not just an adult in the room, but someone to guide them. So to build a company, you need three things, right? Especially in tech. You need a good product, you need money, and you need people. It's three stools. And money was available. Product they had, because these guys were the ones, they had the tech guys, right? The third one was how do you hire your first employee? How do you even think about building your team? All those things they didn't have. And I saw that, hey, I could help solve that problem, even though I didn't have HR, but I had spent years building and leading teams, right, in a very well regarded company. So that led me to jump into it, even despite all the doubts, because I was confident that I could solve a problem.
right. Yeah. Can you bring us to a challenging time in that journey that you experienced and how did you grow out of it?
Yeah. So I think having work-life balance is cliche, but anyway, I thought having work-life balance in corporate was so difficult because my kids were pinging me and I'll be in meetings and I'll have 10 missed calls, right, after a 1 hour meeting. I remember that occasion because it was one of the triggers that told me, hey, I think it's about time that I spend more time with the kids, right, versus being in meetings after meetings in the office. And I thought it was really difficult. But being an entrepreneur and a mom, I think it's even more difficult because you are just so much more vested in something that you started and want to build that the most difficult thing for me was being present. Like
Right.
really, right? My kids will, over the years, will look at me and say, oh, actually, sometimes mom is around, but not really around. Because my mind is kind of, gosh, like, oh, I see this opportunity. I can't wait to go and spend some time to go solve it, right? But I'm actually at home. Or so I thought that actually being present
Mm.
will be my biggest challenge as an entrepreneur, even more so than in corporate, because as an entrepreneur, I kind of like spend more time working at home. I could do that.
Right.
And you can tell the lack of presence, even more so
Right.
because it's very paradoxical, right? You're present, but so I thought that was actually my most challenging times when the kids needed me more.
Right. Actually, I really want to dig into that a little bit later, but whilst we still dwell on your, these early days, is there anything that you would do differently or something that you've learned to forgive yourself for?
Mhm. One thing I wish
Mm.
I did for sure did differently.
Mm.
It is super not easy, but would have been not to have a helper.
Mm.
Okay, I know it's kind of, again, very paradoxical, and I had a helper from the beginning of time. with my first kid all the way to even now. But if I could, I wouldn't have had a helper because it would have been super challenging, but I think the kids would have grown up differently. I think they'll be a bit more responsible in terms of keeping the house in order or, doing things, just having a bit more ownership and independence. I felt that I have done a fairly good job, I hope, instilling, the right values in the way I led my life or the things I place
Mm.
into, which is definitely faith. Yeah, but I felt that because we were so overly reliant on a helper that the kids would, if you look at my house right now, it's a complete mess and they don't care. Nobody cares. So I know it sounds a bit trivial, but if I were to
No.
I would really challenge myself not to have a helper. And I wish that young parents these days will consider that option because I think it's good for all of us. It's good for the kids.
Wow. Okay, that is very challenging for myself. As someone with two young kids and another one on the
Yeah.
way. I can't
Because
imagine not having
yeah, when
yeah.
I saw that question, I go, yeah, I'm sure there are many things that I would have done differently. And I don't have that many regrets because I'm actually quite happy with how my kids have grown up. They were very, very difficult in the young days. Imagine 4 kids when they start to fight, that's the end. But yeah, I'm actually very, very blessed and very grateful for how they've
Mhm.
accept,
Mm.
yes, that that that's never perfect, right? And I wish that I could have made that decision and be a bit more courageous in making that decision. Things can work, and I've seen parents do it, even with 4 or 5 kids. But yeah, just sharing that.
Wow, thanks for sharing that. So I want to double click on what you said on that paradox of being around but not present. So how will you tell someone who suffers from that? And I'm thinking of myself, right? Like I feel like my brain is somewhere else sometimes, but my body is here with the kids playing.
Yeah,
But like I want to, reply to the email or something. Like
yeah.
yeah,
I'm probably not the best person to because it was a struggle, right, throughout, and probably not the best person to give the advice. But of course, number one to me, I tried doing different things. So I tried bracketing. So the principle of bracketing, which it's time buckets, right? So that
mm,
different ways to put it. So time buckets are be very intentional. Like during this time, I will not look at my computer or look at my phone or whatever it is.
mm,
The other thing that is another paradox, but that's how I managed it, is this thing that I tell myself that I work 7 days a week so that I don't have to work 9 to 5. So when I tell myself that, it allows me to be present for things I need to be present for. Like, for example, if I were to have to attend a kids competition, right? Like one of their
mhm,
sports competition or an event in school, or I need to talk to my kids about something and it's the work day, right? And I tell myself, it's okay to spend this time to do it because I can always catch up over the weekend when they
mm,
are in whatever, when they are in a class or in their CCA, whatever. So that became a little bit of a solace for me. And I know it's
mhm,
intuitive again because most people who talk about work-life balance will be like, oh, wow, we work Monday to Friday, but Saturday, Sunday, we absolutely, put aside for the kids. And I know that doesn't work for me because I feel that
mm.
being an entrepreneur and being at home, I just couldn't make that work. So once I
Right.
told myself that mom works 7 days a week so that I don't have to work 9 to 5, I can attend to you on weekdays, I felt a lot better. And I've said this to many people. Some will agree with me, and some will go, "You must be crazy or a workaholic." But it has helped me balance being an entrepreneur and being a mom in the last 10 years. I didn't need it when I was in corporate because I think things were a lot more manageable. But as an entrepreneur, being a mom and a entrepreneur is definitely a lot more intense.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. So maybe if you can talk a little bit about how you and your spouse, how do y'all make it work?
I'll tell you a secret. I've never
Okay,
cooked.
just between it.
I've never cooked a day in my life, right? So I've been very blessed. My dad was a cook. My husband is a great cook. So don't compete in the kitchen. There's only one chef in the kitchen, right? So he cooks extremely well. And because of that, I think it has also sort of translated to how because when you cook for someone or when you cook for the kids, you tend to have a slightly more nurturing demeanor. And so I think it translated to him being more nurturing and helping with the chores and everything else. So I'm sure many people have said this, and there are many books on this, but I would really emphasize that balance between mom and dad in terms of raising the kids is like super important. I don't want to be a superhero, and I think women shouldn't think of themselves as superhero as well in terms of I will bow everything and all that. And even when I was a complete stay-at-home mom for 4 years, right? Before doing this, even then, I think, I mean, number one, my husband supported me by saying, go ahead, it's okay, we'll make it work, finances and all that. But he was still very much involved in the family even then, right? So can't undermine the importance of that. And I'm sure you've heard that over and over in all your different podcasts. And
Yeah.
we play different roles, right? So I know it's strange for my kids to say, oh, mom doesn't cook, dad cooks. But well, it is what it is, right? It doesn't make me any
Yeah.
less of a mom. Yeah, I used to be a little insecure about that, but no, I'm happy. I think it's great. That
Yeah, if
balance.
he's a great cook, why not, right?
Yeah, exactly. Don't try to fight with someone who's
Exactly.
better than you if you're not the top, if you're not the best in the game.
Yeah, so I wanted to hear a little bit on the professional story of ConnectOne, and we did touch a bit about how it got started. Yeah, if you can summarize it, 3 top lessons that you've learned whilst building this business and raising your children at the same time, what is it? And maybe, okay, give us a bit of the history, right? Because you started with recruitment, and then I know you also went into like Web3, and now you're very involved in portfolio career. So maybe paint a bit of a picture of like the history of ConnectOne in your work.
Yeah. So I think the most important thing being an entrepreneur, okay, I mean, a few things, right? Number one, yeah, I hope people don't hear this. Oh. But when I started Connect One, is fake it till you make it. Really. So there are things that you don't know, right? And that you will need to know. But in front of a client, you know it all. Then you go back and figure out. So I've always told myself, right, really fake it till you make it. But the thing is, the faking it's fine, but you have to make it, right? So I think with Connect One, it was like that. And a lot of women, and they come to me, I think women have natural imposter syndrome, like, kind of thing. Like, oh, if I don't check, so I do recruitment a lot and I interview a lot of women.
Mm.
If I check 10 boxes in this JD, all the 10 boxes in this JD, I tell myself I'm not ready for this, right? Very common. Men will go, if I check 5 boxes, well, I've checked 5 boxes, the other 5, no problem. I will figure it out. I'm generalizing here, but it is so common. Well, I think for me, if you ask me about the history of starting Connect One, it's really that just being courageous because a lot of things can be learned. I didn't have the background in HR, I didn't have the background in recruitment, but I had some, and then everything else can be learned. So that's my philosophy all through, which wasn't like that maybe in the beginning, not in corporate, because in corporate, yeah, there's no space to think about these things. But as an entrepreneur, so that underlying thing helped me to figure out, oh, crypto, wow, this is an emerging market. Let me
Right.
jump into it and learn along, start a community and learn along with others. And the initial few days, I actually really felt very stupid. Like I look at what they're talking about and I went, shit, like how do I answer this? But I think we learn along the way. So crypto was a bit of an unusual thing. But then with the fractional career, obviously I've always believed in the buy, build, borrow model of building a team. So when it started to become more mainstream with Moritz leading it, I naturally jumped into it. So I think how it translated into me being a mom, I hope that this thinking of mine will be something my kids will hold true to. Number one, the curiosity. Said too much, but super important. The learnability, right? And sometimes the need to fake it till you make it, because that underlines curiosity, that underlines courage, and that underlines the adaptability, all the things that we need to know in the world of AI or the future of work. Yeah, so that's a bit about me,
Yeah.
a little secret, like, you know. Yeah, I know like people treat me as a bit of a thought leader now, but like in the early days, I really didn't know enough. I learned along the way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess the other way of saying it is that you're an avid learner, right? And you're someone who's just very curious and hungry and always wanting to grow and learn. So actually on that point, I'm curious, right? Because your kids are, I mean, okay, there's a whole range, like working to still, being in uni or even A levels, pre-uni. what are some things that, knowing what you know about the future of work and where AI tech could be heading, how do you think about educating your kids? Or what do you think is important for, bringing up your children and educating them in this environment?
Yeah. So,
And if you can share like specific examples, if like how
right.
you inculcate that, that would be great.
For sure, for sure. So the problem is I'm very conscious of not imposing like
Sure.
my thoughts, on the kids. It's the same thing as maybe a parent thinking that, hey, banking is the best start to your career, for example,
Sure.
right? And then you force your kids, oh, you should absolutely be a doctor. And then, you kind of find your way and force the kids to become a doctor. So I'm actually very conscious of that, of my thinking. And funnily, you'll be surprised. My kids, if when they need to come to me, they'll come to me. And I rather have that open door rather than, hey, why are you still in this job? This job doesn't pay well enough. You're underpaid, because this is the average. They funnily look at my LinkedIn posts. And not only do they look at my LinkedIn posts, their friends look at my LinkedIn posts and will screenshot and send to my kids. This is what your mom is saying. So it's quite funny, but indirectly, the stuff I'm writing on LinkedIn, which is for a broader audience, reaching my kids, and they come and discuss with me based on that rather than. So I feel that accidentally, stuff that I'm writing on social media is making them think or is impacting the way they think without sounding like, oh, it's because mom is saying it or, that sort of thing. So I'm not sure how this will relate to other moms or parents who are listening to this. I think we all have a different way of communication. And I've always held true to the fact that I do not want to impose. I can give an advice, but even an advice can sound as a broken record when your parents are doing it. So I've learned that, oh, it looks like LinkedIn is reaching my kids. And yeah, it's accidentally, but I'm glad it's happened that way. So they'll come to me and say, hey, my mom, I saw this, wonder why you said it. What do you think of this? It's very interesting. So great. They initiate the conversation.
Interesting. Yeah. What about when they were younger and you had a bigger kind of impact, or like you had to mold their career, or not career, well, more like the activities or their choices? Like, how do you inculcate, say, curiosity, right? And being open to learn? Were there ways that you were like specifically for how you thought about bringing your kids to, I don't know, classes, or just, I'm asking this because I know a lot of our listeners are younger parents and we're always thinking about this as our
Right.
kids are, much younger. So yeah, any
Yeah.
advice there?
Actually, I'm probably a very unconventional parent because I've got friends who would send them to 10 activities so that they will discover their, like talent, like 3 musical instruments, 3 types of sports, and then to discover that. I never really did that. Number one, because I was a bit lazy. And I mean, of course, there are some things I regret. Oh, I wish I sent them to piano class so that they would, learn music. But it's funny, they picked up, and I don't know if that's the right thing for every parent, but they picked up everything on their own through my work or contribution, I would say, through my voluntary work. I'll give you an example, right? So I teach youth, I teach the children and the youth in church. And I did that because I felt that I wanted to get to know growing kids and what they were going through from a perspective of an external perspective rather than from my own kids, right? I mean, how much can I learn just from them? I wanted to broaden my horizon. So one way is to teach these kids because I understand how they think and I understand what's going through them and things like that. And because of that, I felt that, hey, these kids are like studying so hard, even though I see them once a week in church. They're studying so hard. Why don't I organize a bowling activity? So I brought all of them bowling and I brought my kids along,
Oh
right?
wow.
Bowling. And from that, my 2 kids, I guess they started to bowl for the first time in their life. And they became very competitive bowlers and they did very, very well in bowling. In fact, bowling gave them many opportunities to get into the best schools, to get into different things because of their achievements and experience, right, in sports. So when I look back at that, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. How, because I looked outside, I looked externally, and I know it's a bit complex, this point, but because of that, it impacted my children in a way. And I have many examples of that, including how they learned music. of the work that I did with the youth in church, and we organized praise and worship, we organized things like that. And my kids, I would bring my kids along, and they saw that, and then they said, "Oh wow, I would also like to learn guitar and drums," and they started to learn it on their own because they were
That's cool.
exposed. So exposure
Yeah.
can be in a few ways. I personally do not want to expose them by sending them to classes. I
Mm.
thought that, I mean, because I'm doing some of these work and I am contributing to the broader society, I want them to see it, and I want them to, like it's more than just music or sports, but it's also
Cool.
how mom thinks about, doing stuff not just for your own kids, but for the broader society or for their peers or, something like that. So I know it's a bit complex, might sound a bit strange to people who are more structured in the way they want to bring up the kids. But yeah, that's just my experience.
I think what you're saying is that you kind of model it out, and with, I guess, the hope as well that they would be able to pick up and learn and see what is important to you, and hopefully maybe if they're interested without you imposing, like
Y-
join you in it.
It's almost like that. There
Yeah.
is a bit of modeling involved.
Mm.
And there's also a bit of sense of, it's my life doesn't just evolve around kids and work. It has to be more than that.
Mm.
And I justify the time that I spend, because some parents will be, I'm already so busy with work and my kids. How do I have time to do
Volunteer.
volunteering work or to contribute? And the way I look at it is it makes me a better parent when I'm able to see beyond just my own circle. And I have so many examples of how that knowledge, that giving has helped me receive so much more. And that receiving is just not me, but also my family, because
Mm.
I become a better parent. Yeah, when I see what's happening in the world, through the
Mm.
lens of kids or through the lens of kids that are in their age group. So I'm actually very grateful for that. It could be a bit accidental, but if you ask me now, I think that's just my experience.
Yeah, I come to think of it, I know that you go on like these mission trips or humanitarian trips every
Yeah.
year, right? Pretty much. And I'm sure that your kids are aware of it. I'm sure they might have joined you and showed them as well.
Yeah, they have. They saw me doing it. They have. And finally, it has helped them in some ways in getting, I guess, to stand out and differentiate themselves from others. And it's not
Mm.
intentional, right? I mean, we don't go to a mission trip so that we get a scholarship to Oxford, right? It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But yeah, by doing that, it was also, out of curiosity, of course, for me, but I was also doing it because I felt that it's the right thing to do and I want my kids to see me doing it, but I won't force them to do it. I think one has to model it, to live it,
Mm.
in order for someone to glean, you know, from it. So in Chinese, there's this word called 借鉴, which actually means that I'm borrowing from someone. I'm learning from
Mm.
someone, but I'm borrowing. So I'm borrowing that thinking, I'm borrowing that philosophy, I'm borrowing that principles of life. So yeah, so I think that's the way I live, my parenting style. Yeah, which I don't know. I feel it's a little bit controversial, and some people may or may not believe, may not agree with me. They want to have more structure, actually.
Right. No, I really love what you said, because when I think of how I am today, it's a lot a result of seeing my parents live as well. So I have people in my place like very often, a few times a week. Like, we open a house and have people come in. And if we had another room, we probably might have people stay over. But it's also because I saw my dad, especially because he's like an evangelist. Like, he was always
Yep.
opening up his homes for people. Well, our couch would be like for, missionaries from Indonesia or India every few months. And it was quite interesting for us as, young kids, like seeing people from, different countries and different backgrounds and sleeping on our couch occasionally. I mean, sometimes we'll be annoyed, obviously, it's like our space. But then it's rubbed off me, and he's also gone on many mission trips, and I've joined him, and it also resulted in me starting my own social enterprise in my younger days. So, I mean, I think, yeah, it wasn't, I guess, intentional. We're like, okay, I want my kids to, really go down this route of, humanitarian work per se, but it's rubbed off for sure. Like, now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, I think it's very true. It's very real. I can attest to that even with my own parents. I think the way my kids do things as well. So, the benefit of my kids have grown up, so I can look back and say, what did I do right and what did I do wrong, right? And Yeah, so I felt that I think those were the things I did right. There were many things that I did wrong aside from what I shared, but of
Mm,
course, those were the things I felt I did right. So I don't know whether, I think many women struggle with this thing called work-life balance. And there's only one thing I will tell them, and I hope they go think about this, is like there is a season for everything. And I hold true to that. So, and to me, I don't think there is such a thing called work-life balance per se. It's never 50-50. It's never 50-50. And I think it's fine to be not 50-50. So at some point in time, it's 70-30. Yeah. At some point in time, it flips to the other side. So in my season in life right now, work is more important. That's because my kids don't really need me anymore. So for me, it's 70% work and 30% home. Or maybe even not being a mom is more me now, right? I am taking care. So for me, work-life balance is work-me balance now, right? Rather than work-life balance, because the
mm,
life is no longer the life of a mom, but the life of me as I approach, the third
mm,
half of my life or retirement or whatever it is. So, I think I think one just needs to know what season they're in, and it's totally
mm.
fine. Yeah.
Right. So, welcome back to a very interesting part two. If you're wondering why we have a change of clothes and change of background, it's because we ran out of time to get Elena to answer the last part of the question. So, it's a really important question as well that I want to tap into her years of wisdom, personal and professional, that I know will be super relevant to our mom listeners. So, a lot of our listeners now are moms in midst of career transitions and are thinking of three different things really. So if you can think of yourself sitting across three groups of moms, a group of moms who have been working, they're senior professionals and they're thinking of going into a career pivot, whether it's looking for new industries or something that's a bit more flexible, maybe part-time consulting. That's one group. Another group of moms are going to take a break, thinking about taking a break, right? Because of the life stage they're in, want to caregive and spend more time there. And then there also could be moms that are thinking about going back soon after taking a break. Yeah, what would you say to each group? And how can each group meaningfully go about, especially what you know about the hiring and what's important today as a employer?
All right. Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about group number one, those who are looking to pivot into new roles or freelance or fractional. So I would assume that all of them will want to continue their professional career and want to use their experience and skills, but maybe apply in a way that gives them flexibility or diversity, whatever their intentions is. So I'm going to assume that that's the case. If that's the case, then I would say the best time to do it is now, really. Because I tried in 2018, 2019, I was really a believer of fractional work because I worked with startups and I knew that they had challenges, bringing on the best people at the stage of the company that they're in, whether it's a cost issue or whether it's a fit or whether the person that they want would, take the risk, right, to go into an unknown startup. And I often suggested a fractional arrangement, but that was shot down at that time, especially by the board of those startups, because they thought that we need people who are 100% committed. So at that time, fractional equals not committed, which I challenged, but I couldn't go against the waves. And then around 2023, 2024, when Moritz, who started the portfolio careers, which essentially is like supporting a fractional career, I think it took off because it was really the right time. As in, number one, from a supply side, there are a lot more senior talent who, fortunately or unfortunately, got restructured out of the jobs during this economic crisis. And number two, on the demand side, let's take startups, right? Funding is all-time low. At the moment, I think our funding is it's been reset to 2016. So it's been just going down all the way. And cost was an issue. At the same time, I think, especially for startups, venture capitalists were seeking for them to achieve profitability. So, obviously that has a added pressure on cost. So because of that talent supply and that demand from employers, suddenly the idea of hiring fractionals became reared its head again. And this time, I think with the support of communities, with the realization, with the application of how it's worked from learnings from the West or, before, it is definitely a much more matured idea of how one can build a team using different types of talent, whether it's full-time or whether it's fractional. So if you ask me, for anyone contemplating really in my 10 years in this world of work, I think this is an absolute best time. So of course, caveat, that, I mean, there are a couple, it's science, there's a bit of art, but there's a lot of science. So join a community, join programs to learn how to embark on it. There's a big mindset shift. There are tools for you to accelerate this and reduce, right, or de-risk the failure rate.
Right, right. Thanks so much. And I think it's a great time to also just give a bit of nod to like the master classes that you've run, Elena, on the PCA Portfolio Careers Asia group that I personally have benefited from. And it sounds like it's going to be something that's ongoing and something that listeners could also tap in. And we're going to share the links below if it's something that you're interested in to build your skills and understanding what it's about. How do you price yourself? How do you make yourself and set yourself up for success if you're thinking about going kind of solo or fractional?
Yeah. I mean, I could spend another 15 minutes just, giving the tips on that. But I think, let the deep dive be in another time. But all I think the message that I want to bring across is if you're considering this and unsure, I would say this is the best time.
Okay. And in terms of maybe just anything to prepare yourself, like personally, what would you advise?
Okay, without letting the cat out of the bag in terms of all the programs, number one, if you want to go into fractional roles, we got to shift the mindset from being an employee, applying for a job with a CV, to actually being an entrepreneur, consultant, and running your own business. That's mindset shift number one. I'm taking parts of the paid program out. That's very important. I think, secondly, I would say addiction, the word addiction comes to mind, but it's not a very nice word to go. But basically, don't expect to have predictability. Because when you are salary, you kind of get a regular income every month, and then, you kind of get comfort from it. But as a fractional, you may not get income every month. But if you look at it needs time to build to getting something scalable and repeatable and consistent. But in the long run, it does work. And I think all I can say is there is demand right now, but there are ways to make yourself more in demand versus others. Right.
So good. Thank you. Yeah. So again, all the details to these classes and the communities are going to be in our show notes. So definitely check them out. Yeah. So what about the other two groups, Elena? Those that are thinking of taking a break and those that are coming out of a break.
Yeah.
Looking for maybe more full-time.
Those who are thinking of taking a break, again, same thing. I think the best time is now. But depending on what your intention is, right? If your intention is to reskill and reset, I think this is the best time because there are many skills that are required in the future of work or for the best roles that we do not necessarily possess. I think, so whether it is familiarity with AI, whether, those are hard skills or whether it's the soft skills to sort of change the way we work is going to. So this is actually, if you ask me, if your intention is to reskill and reset, I think this is the best time. But if your intentions are something else, then I would ask, someone just to be clear about why. So kind of start with why. Why are you thinking of taking this break? Be very sure because that's going to keep you committed, right, to this season. And that's going to help you stay on course rather than always, hey, did I make the right decision, kind of thing. Because I think taking a break, funnily, in our society is not conventional, unfortunately. We tend to justify too much, over-justify why we have to take a break, right, in our society, where actually by right, we should take breaks. We should take breaks. So I think to justify to yourself and to the people around you, I think one is to be, super intentional about why you're taking the break. And then after that, then you can decide what you need to do to make the best out of the intention. So for me, I took a break because I really wanted to spend time with my kids. I had 4 by the time I took a break. And I knew that I absolutely didn't want to do anything except to play Monopoly with them in the morning, fetch them to school, read them. And this is exactly what I did. And I was very clear about the timing as well, because not only was I pregnant with the 4th kid, my number 2, who was probably the more problematic of the lot, but he has turned out beautifully, right? So nothing wrong with that, was going to primary school. And I knew that I needed to spend that morning with him. He was in afternoon school. At that time, there was still afternoon school. I needed to spend that morning in him. So I was very intentional. I'll play Monopoly with him. I will read like storybooks after storybooks. I'll fetch him to school. And even up to now, he remembers the times that I played Monopoly with him before going to school. So I think I think what I'm trying to say is that, kind of like be intentional why you take that break, why you're taking that break so that you know exactly what you want to do. But caveat, when you are taking that break, the two things that we must always hold on is number one, to stay connected. So I assume if you are taking a break to look after the kids, especially, please do not allow your circle to be just your kids' friends, play dates, and other moms, right? You need to continue to stay connected with your other friends, the professional world, and everything that's going on aside from your kids. Number two, I think, would be to stay curious. So to stay connected and to stay curious, like what's happening in the world of AI, what's happening. And the only way to stay curious outside of your friends, your kids and your kids' friends, will really be to stay connected professionally. So do structure something, maybe once a week, go meet with someone outside your kids' circle or attend networking events, even though it has no much relevance to your life stage, or even if it does, in a small way, right? Aside from things that's happening in school or your kids' friends' parties, things like that. So I think that's how I would advise, because this is coming from experience, and that's how I pivoted out of that 4 or 5 years of complete stay at home into the company that I'm at. Is because I think I continue to stay connected with the people outside, in the
Yeah.
outside world.
And you were also volunteering very regularly, and again, that was a form of networking, because I remember you said that how you essentially started to go into entrepreneurship was because you met someone in the volunteer group.
That's right. That's right. So hence my recommendation to people and I've seen friends and people of my age who have just like went downhill all the way after they stopped work, especially to look after the kids. Very, very noble thing to do. So now some of my friends whom are coming out of work, because they have lost that connection, but the work that they can do right now are things like many of them are in sort of administration work, EA work that probably not apply all that they've learned before, or all their entire capability to doing it. So, and like I said, it's nothing wrong with that. I think you can find fulfillment there as well. But it's just that perhaps, if you had stayed connected professionally, or perhaps it could have been a different story.
Right. And any words of advice for the last that are coming out of a break right now? How do we think about, justifying, explaining?
I think that is a tough one, depending on how many years you have left work, depending also on your circle and network. I would say don't put too much pressure on yourself when you're ready to come back. What I mean is don't expect to immediately power back to where you left before. Like, so if let's say you left as a CFO of a bank, and then when you come back after 10 years, don't expect yourself to be a CFO of a bank immediately, right? You may have to start small again. You may have to do projects. You may have to reestablish the networks and the trust and all that before you can climb back up, to that level. So put less pressure on yourself when you're coming back after a break is what I would suggest you would do. I have so many experience of placing people who have come back. For example, this person, she took a 10-year break. She was a consultant come marketing professional before, took a 10-year break. I got her out of it and put her in a marketing role in the university startup program. It played to her strength, but it wasn't exactly the same scope, right, as before. But from there, she continued. So this is 10 years ago. So I think she built it up again. Like she built up the trust. She obviously had the background and she continued to learn and adapt and all that. I mean, she's been working for 10 years now. So it's 10 years and a 10 years break and then now 10 years. But she's almost back to where she was and better even than before. But I think when she started, I think she was very cognizant of the fact that I may not be at the same role as I was before. It'll take some time. I think the other one is my own finance lead. She took a 15-year break. Was working in a bank. She knew that she didn't want to go back to a bank, but she wanted to apply her finance skills. So I recommended her, before she joined me, I recommended her to a client. And while the role was scoped much smaller, but it applied all that she had learned. And I think from there, she slowly proved herself, right? So, I think the only thing I would say if you're returning back after a break, just to take things slow, not because you don't want to run, but because the employer may not be ready to hire you where you were 10 years ago.
True. And the landscape would have changed quite a bit as well. So I think like learning and skilling up, right? I mean, if you're talking about marketing 10 years ago and 10 years like now, it's like pretty different world.
I mean, I think for some roles, you may not even be able to go back to where you were. You would have to do a complete pivot. But to ensure that group 3, which are those coming back from work, has a successful return. And I'm not an expert in helping mothers return to work. There are others who are more expert than me. But I would say that what you do during your break, which is exactly what I said earlier, to be connected and to be curious, is going to help you when you're returning. Whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years later, it's definitely going to help you. So being intentional about, all these things while you're having a break, and although your main intention is to maybe look after the kids or look after your aged parents or whatever it is, will help you if you intend to, if you return.
Wow, that was a lot packed in. I'm so thankful that we managed to get all this out on second try, on second time. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your personal experiences and also what you've seen as a talent solution provider. Anything else you feel like you want to say a message for any of the listeners? You feel like you might have missed out or want to,
no, I think it's about it. It's quite a lot that I've said. I think in the first recording, I did say that, and I still hang on to it. Like, I feel that there is a season for everything. And so I hope that, the mothers listening, wherever they are, to embrace that. Else, as mother, woman, and all that, we tend to pile too much on ourselves. And we want to make everything work. We want to have perfect balance on all fronts. But I do feel that it's quite impossible. And it's fine to have, at some point, one being more important than the other. It doesn't have to be a perfect balance. Yeah, so I'll just reiterate it.
Yes. I love that because that's the biggest learning I feel that I've had out of my own break, transition, downshift, whatever we call it. Okay, so signature question for you, Elena. Can we have it all? And what does it even mean to you?
Like I said, when you ask me a question, can we have it all? We tend to think about all our lives in equal importance. When someone says, in my mind, can you have it all? It means everything is, if you're assuming that everything is in balance at all stages of your life, then it's impossible. We can't have it all. So at some stage, some things will have to give for. And we need to know what is important at that point in life for us to do that, right? Many, many examples of women who know that at that point in time, this is what's important to me, and I'll sacrifice certain things. Like for me, I sacrificed my career, my corporate career, because I know that I wanted to take this break. And thank God I did it, actually, if you ask me. Else, I wouldn't be sitting here running a business that I so enjoy doing, right? If I had continued with my corporate career. Yeah, so, and plenty of more other examples that I'm sure your podcast or your interviewees have. But I hope it resonates with someone.
For sure. Well, thank you so much, Elena. Just looking ahead, what's next for ConnectOne, PCA, for the careers?
Okay, interesting. So for ConnectOne, I'm at a stage in life where, and I haven't said it to many people, but some of my closer friends would know, I'm in a stage of life where I'm contemplating what next for ConnectOne. Yeah, so there were a few pathways, but I'm still deciding what that pathway could be. For me personally, I think I would love to continue to create impact in careers and jobs. So let's see how that works, right? And so that segues into my involvement in PCA. I think many people do ask me, why are you spending so much time in PCA? You're not being paid for it or whatever it is. I think to me, it's just helping someone fulfill their aspirations, whatever those aspirations are, right? Whether to have flexibility, to have balance in their life, while creating value and impact for the person who they are working for or working with, sort of thing. So yeah, without saying so much, because I'm still unclear about where I'm going and where ConnectOne is going, I think suffice to say that it's been 10 years and it's time to seriously think about what next.
Wow, I really appreciate that sharing, actually, because it shows that things come and go and different seasons come and go, right? And you're in a very different season from a lot of us. And so it's been such a treat. Thank you for having you here, Elena, to share your personal insights that you've seen at work as well with us on Make It Work.
Thank you for the opportunity, and again, to share things that I don't normally share in definitely not in a podcast or interview or even a whatever, right? Yeah, so mix for some thinking too.
Yeah,
Right.
it's been a wonderful privilege. Thank you so much. All right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Make It Work, where we uncover inspiring stories of modern working mamas in Asia who have redefined their careers whilst putting family first. Please help others discover the show by leaving a review and rating on wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and TikTok. Meanwhile, here's to you, making it work.